Bungie has just recently buffed the deep sight drops. They've made it so that it's not a weekly reset from the one that you can grab from each vendor at the helm. Instead, it's a daily reset, which is huge news. What you're going to want to do from now until Lightfall is make sure you craft the absolute best weapons. Don't waste your materials though, or waste your time crafting weapons that aren't worth your time. Unless, of course, you're crazy, you've got so much free time and you just want to have everything craftable in Destiny 2. Most people are not in that boat though, and in today's video, I'll be covering all of the weapons that you should craft and the ones that you should avoid if you want to use your time wisely. So starting off with Season 19, and then we'll go back to Season 18, 17, and 16. Season 19, we've got the Icarus hand cannon. You can pass on this. 180s are not especially strong in PvE or PvP. We have the Icarus shotgun. We can also pass on this. There's just not any good or any extremely strong rolls of this that are worth crafting at this point in time. We could live to eat our words though. Again, keep in mind that Lightfall will have changes. The Icarus sniper rifle is decent. You can get 4th times the charm, high impact reserves, pretty solid sniper. Would recommend crafting this, but I wouldn't say it's a highly recommend. So that's going to be the two tiers. There's the recommend, and then there's the highly recommend. So we'll get into that in a moment. The Icarus SMG is one of those highly recommends. Make sure you get the frames for this. Make sure you craft the Icarus SMG before Lightfall. This thing is so potent in PvP and PvE. Definitely craft this thing. Trust me, you want to get that. Next up, we'll talk about the Fire and Forget. This thing has some excellent rolls because of its frame and because of its 3-round burst. It can basically fire indefinitely. Definitely worth crafting the Fire and Forget. We've got Field Prep Focus Fury as the role you're looking for on this. This is a must-have for crafting. Definitely get that. The Tripwire Canary Combat Bow. Now, myself personally, I don't have a good roll of the Wolf Tone or the Arsenic Bite, so this is actually good for me. But if you out there have the Wolf Tone or Arsenic Bite, God Roll, or an extremely strong roll of that, then you won't really need this. This is a pretty good weapon to have to be able to craft, but it's definitely not a must-have. But for myself personally, I will craft this. Next up, we'll talk about the Disparity Pulse Rifle. This thing is pretty solid in PvP. It doesn't really have any use in PvE currently. It's a decent one to craft, but not a must-have. The Path of Least Resistance, you absolutely should craft this. It can get Shoot to Loot 1 for all or Stats for all 1 for all. Definitely want to craft this bad boy before Lightfall. The Judgment of Kelgroth can get that new perk close to melee, making it one of the best glaive weapons, and there could definitely be usage for this in the future. I would highly recommend crafting this as well. This is in the must craft section. And then we've got the Retrofit Escapade, which used to be insanely good, but Bungie just recently nerfed volatile rounds. So I'll put this in the, sure, you could craft it, but it's not going to be extremely sought after the recent changes to volatile rounds. Moving on now to the Season 18 weapons that you can craft before Lightfall. We've got the Tarnished Metal Scout Rifle. This is a must-have. You can get Demo, Explosive Payload. Definitely one of the best scout rifles in the game, and I think it's the only one that has that's an arc scout rifle that has explosive payload. Extremely strong. Highly recommend crafting this bad boy. The Blood Feud does get Swashbuckler, so it's decent, but it's not a must-have SMG to craft. The Brigand's Law used to be really epic because it had Volt Shot. However, the Icarus SMG has now put this thing in the dust because Icarus SMG just outplays it in every way, so you don't need to craft Brigand's Law. I'll put that in the don't need it all category. The No Reprieve can get Enhanced Surrounded, which is decent, and it can also get Enhanced Swashbuckler. It's okay, but it's definitely not a must-have craftable slug shotgun. The Sail Spike Plitch Glass gets outclassed by the other arc linear fusions, so you don't need to craft that. And the Plank Stride is just outright terrible. Don't craft this thing. You don't need this. I might live to eat my words. Maybe Bungie buffs 900s in the future, but as it stands right now, you don't need to craft this weapon in Destiny 2. We are now going over all the weapons you need to craft before Lightfall Season 17. There's a bunch of really good weapons here. We have the Awstringer. This is a hand cannon that I use in PvP right now. You can get Eye of the Storm, Opening Shot. I really like that roll. There's also a bunch of really good rolls for this thing. Honestly, the Drang is still literally one of the best weapons in the game right now, especially if you're on controller. Moving target Swashbuckler. This thing absolutely deletes people in PvP. The Beloved is still one of the best snipers in the game. It's in the top 10 regularly for the Trials meta report. You get Snapshot, Moving Target, or Quick Draw. Box Breathing is actually also a good perk on this as well. Then you have the Callus Mini Tool, which is also really good. You can get Unrelenting or Threat Detector, Surrounded, or Incandescent. These are all must-have craftable weapons inside the game before Lightfall. We've got the Hollow Denial, which is also really good. Lead from Gold, Killing Tally, Repulsor Brace. Then you have the Bump in the Night. I would craft both of these for sure. These are both really, really strong. The Bump in the Night can get Demo and Chill Clip. The Tears of Contrition would be the first weapon that you don't need to craft. This thing has no real purpose anymore. People were pretty hyped about it when it first came out, but it's fallen really short now. The Nezaric's Whisper had a moment, but I think that the new glaive with the close to melee outclasses it. But it had a moment where it was used for a little bit of time there. but I wouldn't say this is a must-have for crafting. Same thing with the Firefight. Firefight, you don't need it all. There's no real application for this in PvE or PvP. Don't need to craft this. The Without Remorse is pretty good for PvP, and it's also pretty good for PvE. You got a 1-2 punch shotgun in PvE. You have just an overall solid PvP craftable shotgun here. So there it is. Now let's go look at the Season 16 weapons. I've now gone to all 4 different vendors, and I've gone through every single weapon except the last one. We're at the War Table. We've got the Explosive Personality. This thing can get Disruption Break and a auto-loading, which are some really good rolls. There's a bunch of different rolls of this that are actually really good. Is this an absolute must-have? It's not quite there, but it's definitely a solid weapon to have, at least in your arsenal. The Recurrent Impact does have some decent rolls, but you could probably skip out on crafting that. The Under Your Skin bow is almost the best bow in class. It's definitely the best void bow that you can craft, so I would highly recommend to get that. The Sweet Sorrow is a pretty solid auto rifle, but you could probably pass on crafting that if you're low on time. The Thoughtless Sniper is definitely top tier. You can get Overflow and Firing Line. Definitely worth crafting this bad boy. And the Peace of Mind is very, very good in PvP, so I would highly recommend crafting that as well. And that's everything. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Later.